2018 was a most violent year. Toronto smashing records for homicides. I'm with crime reporter Joe Warmington of the Toronto Sun here, and there was a number of key stories this year. Joe, opening up the crystal ball, how are these stories from 2018 going to carry into 2019? Like, for instance, the murders or murder-suicide or whatever it was of billionaire Berrien Sherman and his wife, Honey. That's still clouded in mystery.
Yeah, I think that this year you're going to see, this coming year in 2019, some sort of an effort to get some evidence out there, because that's what's missing in this case, whether it's a photograph or a video of, it could be a shoelace or a tire, because they've not done that. There's extreme pressure on the police to deliver some sort of evidence. So watch for that in early 2019.
Now, it seems like, it also seems like, as you say, it's shrouded in mystery, and it appears to the layman that the Sherman family is, buying justice for the answers they want. Yeah. Would that be a fair characterization?
Yeah, I mean, that's certainly a criticism. They've got billions of dollars, and they put up the $10 million reward. But let's not throw this all onto them. Let's throw it onto the Toronto Police, where this all started.
For the family, the most perplexing and upsetting aspect of the investigation was the failure to recognize the obvious, that the bodies of Berrien and Honey Sherman were staged post-mortem in a very deliberate manner.
Because they originally called it a murder-suicide and then changed their tactic. They could have stood up and said, no, that's what it is, and they didn't. And so before I get to the family and the lawyers and the detectives that were hired, I look at the Toronto Police and ask them, what exactly is this, and what do you have, and hopefully they do that. I think you're going to see, some effort to rectify some of this, Brad, in 2019.
Do you think the $10 million reward will shake a few trees?
Yes, I do, and it's already done that. They've received hundreds of tips. So if this was a double murder, as the police now believe, and as the family has said, $10 million is going to, if somebody knows something, that's got to help, and I think it will.
For sure it will. The other biggie, Joe, Bruce McArthur. Now, he's got a pre-trial January 16th for a trial in 2020. McArthur, of course, is the accused serial killer who preyed upon men in the gay village here in Toronto, and he may be considered the country's worst ever. Joe, what's going on with McArthur? What do you see going forward in 2019?
He's got a few chips to play in the game, and that's about it. Obviously, he's entitled to a fair trial, but I don't think that people think that, I think that they feel the evidence is pretty compelling. So the only move he can make, Brad, is to try to negotiate some sort of a deal for himself. And the only things he can trade off are pleading guilty to save these poor families, the trial.
Sure.
And also all the people that don't want to go and have to testify in something like this because it's late night stuff and they don't want to expose their lifestyle to this. And that's a big issue right now before, as you know, in the courts.
Sure.
And the other one is the fact that if there are more victims, he may be able to negotiate something. So you ask, what can he negotiate? And I'm going to ask you because you've covered some of these things. I mean, obviously...
He doesn't have any wiggle room. He has a TV in his cell. He doesn't really have any wiggle room. He's gone forever. He's going to be declared a dangerous offender if found guilty, of course, and that's going to be it. But the also thing for me, Joe, is all that OPP territory for the years when he was a traveling salesman. Now, the OPP wouldn't tell you that a bomb dropped on them, even if you were standing right there and watched the mushroom cloud.
He has kids. It's not unprecedented in Canada to make a deal. We saw that with Clifford Olson.
Sure.
To say, okay, I want you to help out my kids. That could be something that he can negotiate. So I think that that's the only game they can play. He hasn't cooperated at all with them. So let's see what he does.
Well, he hasn't cooperated, and the OPP aren't saying anything. Now, the other one, a beautiful summer night, shattered in gunfire and death on the Danforth. 2 dead, 2 young girls dead. Now,
15 wounded.
15 wounded. Has that taught the Toronto Police any lessons going forward in 2019? Do you think that the police force has grown this year?
Yeah, I do. I mean, they've had a tough year. And it's not their fault. They respond to this stuff, and they do the best they can. They make mistakes like anybody makes mistakes. But I think the overall thing, the biggest mistake with the situation on the Danforth is the way they suppressed it into, you know, this is just a mentally ill guy, when he had a cache of weapons and all kinds of other things. So the reality is that I think what we should do is look at that more about where this guy went to. Did somebody train him how to use that weapon? Were there people behind the scenes that were motivating him to do that?
Sure.
And until they do that, I'm not interested in the rest of it, because that did happen, and it didn't come out of, you know, you don't see it very often.
No, absolutely. Joe Warmington, plenty to look forward to
It's a
in
bit
2019.
Of a busy year. Good work yourself.
Everybody.
The crime hunter, everybody. There he is.
Everybody, be safe out there, and we'll see you in 2019. Follow us on YouTube or tweet your comments to Twitter and Facebook.